Good evening and welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. Guys, we made it. We are officially past part one of the season and we're getting ready for the World Cup. But first, we need to look back on what has been a fantastic first part of the season and see what was a nicely rounded off weekend to kick it all off, I think. So, as always, my name is Rory and I am joined by my good friends...
Adam and...
Andy. I never get that right. Adam and Andy, boys, here we are. Andy, how are you doing today, man? You good?
Yeah, not too bad.
Did you manage to keep up with all the drama?
Yeah, it's funny. Last night I was watching United game and then chilled with the missus, got onto the PlayStation for a bit, and it was about midnight. I looked at Twitter to see what had been going on with Ronaldo, see all this shit had blown up with Ronaldo stuff, and I was literally
must have known it was all going too well, right? Everything was just too nice. It can't be that nice for that long.
Yeah, I shall go to the finer details in a bit, but good things can't last forever, clearly. But yeah, I'm sure that's given. I mean, that's given us a discussion point if you didn't already have a million already.
Yeah, it's just another one. Throw another one on the pile. And Adam, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. Decent weekend. Much like Andy, I'm still recovering over Allegri being in the top four of Serie A. Like, for weeks we've been bashing the boat, as well as Rabiot. I did watch the match, and then just that shock. I'm still trying to get over it, mate, to be fair. But yeah, we'll explain more as we go along, I'm sure. But more importantly, mate, how are you doing as well?
I'm fantastic. I'm genuinely fantastic. I had such a good Saturday. It was just so nice. I think, obviously, we're going to get onto it, but Brentford, thank you, Brentford. And then even more, thank you, Arsenal, for not completely bottling it at the first chance. Like, I feel like there was a big test and we passed it, and I had a really nice Saturday. The weather is still crazy warm in Milan, which, global warming concerns aside, is nice. So we're getting one more decent weekend at Milan. So it's good. It's good. And it was a good weekend of football. I think it kind of feels weird now, and it feels really real that the season has finished now and that the World Cup is actually coming. I think it's the closest I've got to being excited. I don't know about you guys, but it's difficult to get excited about, obviously. But this is the closest I've been to excited about it. How are we feeling, Andy?
I think you're just a little bit too happy about Arsenal being.
Mate, you've not even seen it yet. We're not even talking about them yet.
It's just a glow in your face. It's like I don't know how to compare it, but it's like someone losing their virginity for the first time or something.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while. What can I say?
Clearly,
it's been a while.
It's been 16 years, I suppose. You would be happy after that time. But no, I think I think I've started to get like a little bit of excitement to it. Like I'm not, absolutely buzzing. It's difficult to get buzzing about a World Cup, especially when I looked at the fixtures and realised the first game is against Iran at 1:00 on a Monday. I'm sorry, but that
be at work.
That doesn't make me in any way excited. But I'm sure once it kicks off, there'll hopefully be some decent football at least.
Fingers crossed. Adam, you excited yet? On the 1 to 10 scale, where are we?
Ooh, I'd say about 6 or 7, starting to warm up. Like, we've been doing our previews. They've been really well, like, thought out, and kudos to you, my friends. But more importantly, the guests that we've had, I think I've just started to appreciate the content and the stuff that they're coming out with. So, like, even Ecuador kind of light bulb moments open my eyes up to maybe a different way of like looking at this World Cup. So certainly I'm really looking forward to seeing those sides that maybe I probably haven't like concentrated on. So looking forward to it in that respect.
No, this is it. I think before we do move on to Premier League and say what it's made me realize interviewing all these people from all around the world is like it sounds quite cheesy, but each team's individual journey to get there. Yeah. And for some countries that don't qualify all the time, how much it means to them. And you're like, oh man, I'm super excited for you to be able to watch your country at a World Cup. Like, I think it really has helped me get excited. And Ecuador, we are fully behind you guys, by the way. Not only is it an exciting team, but that video is going off. So thank you guys. We are fully behind Ecuador right now. But we do need to wrap up what was the first part of the season. And we are, of course, starting in Italy, in Serie A, and there's only one team to start with. They've not conceded in 6 Serie A games. Their defense all of a sudden is on lock. Since they've gone to 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, it has just been relentless. And even when we were laughing at Juve the most, and we were laughing pretty loudly, we always knew in the back of our head, they will be there or thereabouts. They always find a way. Adam, how have they found a way to get themselves arguably back in the title race?
Yeah, I'm still working it out, to be honest. I don't know. But to be honest, like, you look at the way they played yesterday, it's completely different in terms of style, way they went about it. But one of the things you have to say is Allegri seems to be picking the players that are in form right now. So, for example, Moretti didn't start in this match. Moses Keane started. I know that's kind of forced, but he got goals, like probably made easy by the fact that Providal made it so easy for him, to be fair. But Rabiot, hands up, he's played really well. Gatti, as you mentioned, in the defensive lineup, did really well. Bremer almost set up Milik with an incredible opportunity. So I still can't kind of figure out what it is that's kind of making them tick. But one thing I will say is Kostic seems to be the outlet that they've been craving. Kostic seems to be the one, and Fagioli as well. Like, he's pinging these balls around, and at the right time, Chiesa comes back and he sets up Milik for the goal. So it's coming back to kind of indicate that maybe they'll have a stronger second half of the season. And I think if they win these big games in terms of the heads-to-head kind of matches, then you never know. They might be knocking on Napoli's door. I'd hate for Napoli to lose it in this manner, but it does feel like if Juventus can keep the core players fit going into the second part of the season, they could be a big threat in that title race.
I think Chiesa coming back, so he started to come back from injury. I mean, you saw the impact he came off the bench against Lazio. Yeah. Again, that would be a massive plus for them as well. But I think that the weird Kostic and Moise Kean partnership seems to be working all right. And I think the thing I like about Kostic, he keeps it. I've seen him in the Bundesliga as well. He keeps it simple. He's not a flashy player. He's not going to have you up off your seat, but he's always in space. He's always direct. He just gets ball, crosses ball, or shoots. And it's very.
He knows
simple.
What his job is, right?
Yeah,
he knows what his job is.
He keeps his game simple but effective, and I think you know, especially the Allegri team that is quite functional. I think you need that a bit in your squad, and I think certainly against Lazio. I mean, Lazio didn't really help themselves, to be honest, because that first goal between Milinkovic, Savic, and Providel was an absolute clown show. I mean, it was. But I think one thing is that Juventus seem to be pressing a bit higher up the pitch. They're a bit more aggressive and a bit more snappy. Maybe that comes with confidence when you've run 6 games on the bounce without conceding a goal. Maybe you do get that extra 10%, so to speak. So I think maybe we wrote off Juventus a little bit too willingly and too early this season, because
we were very keen to do it. We were very keen to do it, and still am. I still am keen to do it.
But I think ever since we said Allegri was collecting his P45, it's all gone a bit whoop for him.
He has really turned this around. It's incredible. He's turned this around. I think the change in formation has helped, sticking with that 3 in the back, because the start of the season, I think he was kind of shifting between systems, trying to figure out what was best, where he was going. This 3-5-2 really seems to be working for them. When Allegri's football works, we know it relies on not conceding goals, but also they've now got the people at the other end to put the ball away. I think Chiesa, as you said, coming back is massive. That is the thing where when I saw him come off the bench, the first thing I did was check who in my Fantacalcio had him and if he was still available to buy. Someone has got him, but I think he could be a huge key for Juve in the second half of the season, as you said, and could be that catalyst that pushes them further, because we saw how key he was for Juve and how great a player he is. He's genuinely I love watching him. And I think, him coming back and then maybe Vlahovic being fit the other side of the World Cup, whatever it is, like Chiesa-Vlahovic link-up could be huge. So I think Juve looking in really good shape and Allegri back from the dead. And the problem is, if there's one team that Napoli have a massive psychological complex with, it's Juve. They'll just see them in the rear view mirror, and it concerns me. But a great performance for Juve. For Lazio, these are the performances we know they're capable of. The concerning thing for them is that Milinkovic-Savic has now been linked to Juve. We said that maybe they're going to go out and buy. They're going to go and buy a new midfielder rather than giving the youth players a go. It looks like they've got Milinkovic-Savic on their radar. He's 18 months left on his contract. That would be a disaster for Lazio. I think just as they're starting to build something,
it'd be a classic Juve move.
Yeah.
It'd be a classic Juve move to do, wouldn't it? A team in a very similar place to them in the table. Thank
you.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Like,
yeah.
I think then again, though, I'm not sure where Juve are getting the money from because obviously. Then again, I think we said this in. Didn't we say this in January with Vlahovic? Like we're like, well, where are you? They get the money from, and suddenly out of nowhere, 67 million.
You underestimate the creativity of their accountants.
Yes, and
they really are
right?
next level. They really are next level. But Adam, for Lazio, what did we make of the performance? Is this concerning, or is it just one of those days?
It's a combination of both because they didn't play particularly well. They played Sarri ball, but they weren't penetrative at any moment. I didn't feel like there was like a chance for Lazio at any point. Like even when they did have a shot, and I think it was Luis Alberto when he came on, like he shot it straight at Szczesny, in fairness. So there wasn't much to worry about. I think the main thing you have to consider with Lazio is that they're still not Sarri ready in that sense. They haven't got the players that Sarri wants yet. So January / this next summer is going to be critical. They're doing quite well for where they are, but they are missing Immobile. I think that's quite clear. If they had someone like Immobile, I think he would have maybe caused a bit more mayhem to their attack because they are lacking that bit of quality. I mean, Pedro had an opportunity as well in this match, it has to be said. But again, what's he, 35, 34?
He's very much flashes, isn't he, Pedro? You get flashes of past glories.
He always been a bit like that, hasn't he? Just now and then pops up with something. You go, oh, he's good, and then nothing. But
another 5 weeks, well, he
brings something out.
Yeah.
But no, I think with Lazio, I think with the Luis Alberto one, obviously, the shot that went straight to keeper, but the first touch that went before it was ropey as hell. Like a better touch, you could have either taken that first time, and usually I'd have Luis Alberto as a sort of quality of player capable of doing it. Just take it first time or take a better first touch, and did neither. And it's one of those days I think nothing came off for them. Everything seemed a little bit short and hurried, and that's not, I guess, as we've said, it's not prime Sarri ball. But again, I think it's just the fixtures catching up with teams a little bit. I think some teams are going to have stinkers, and I think Lazio had a bit of a stinker, and
there's a lot of players there that, like, we saw it across the weekend, a lot of players who were thinking about the World Cup already.
Of course they are,
There was a lot of games where you're like, okay, they weren't that deep. So for Juve, huge win. Lazio disappointing, but we need to continue on the Scudetto race theme. And despite a scare, it looked like they might throw it away. Napoli are officially the winter champions. They will be top of the table come the 1st of January. And Osimhen and Elmas. I want to talk about Elmas. Now, throughout the season, we've talked about Napoli players just coming up and getting moments. Ostergaard has done it. Even like Lozano has had his moment. These players that just not really been in and out, and then they have these moments. Elmas was unbelievable this game. Not only did he score, I think he got an assist. He absolutely tore the Udinese defense to pieces, and it just showed me again a sign of what this Napoli squad, I'm not even going to say team, this Napoli squad has been capable of. And Udinese, the masters of a draw, right? Still up there towards the top of the table, and Napoli just blew them away. What do we think of this, Adam? And I'll go to you, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of said it. It was all about Elmas, and he's been doing it for the last few matches, in fairness. So he's been doing quite consecutively good performances, basically setting that standard by Spalletti, which is, if you want to get in this side, you have to be at a certain level. And he just was insane for this match. He even had that move with Zielinski for that goal as well. And Zielinski's goal was incredible. You saw the crowd kind of go like open mouth, just didn't know what they'd just seen.
That cutback was insane.
I mean, that whole
cutback
move
was beautiful.
Yeah,
I
it
think the
was
whole
beautiful.
move, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fairness, Osimhen as well contributed in this match, and he's another one that we've been saying for weeks has been incredible. For that scare in terms of the 2 quick goals succession for Udinese, I don't know if there's much that like the Napoli defense could have done. To be fair, and I feel like they would have still saw it out. I thought like even though it was 3-2, I was like, I think they'll see this out. It was not like if it was Juventus, you kind of sense that maybe they would have crumbled, but actually, no. I felt really comfortable with Napoli. If it was Napoli again of last season, possibly that would have ended up in a draw. But
I was just about to say to Andy, doesn't that tell us something about Napoli that we're now kind of they've been pegged back by 2 and we're not worried? Does that tell us something about them?
we said it. I think we said it last week that Napoli have found a way to grind through games and have the depth to grind through games, where we didn't have that last season and in other challenges I've had over the years. Piotr Zielinski is another one who again has come up quite well recently. I mean, that second Napoli goal was one of the best team goals I've seen this season. Yeah. Everything about it was just top notch. That back heel from Osimhen, that through ball, that floated through ball from Lozano, the technique to get that pinpoint, and then the finish from Zielinski afterwards. He's got a good hit on him, to be fair. That whole move was brilliant. But yeah, I think that it just feels like at the moment it's a sign of a title-winning team, isn't it? Or a team that goes on to win titles, that they have 19 or 20 players that can contribute, come off the bench, do something. Yeah. And I think, to go into the winter, it's winter champions and unbeaten with a 10-point lead. Brilliant.
They are absolutely crushing it, and it's just really nice to see them playing great football, the fans enjoying themselves, the Diego Maradona Stadium absolutely rocking, and more importantly, Osimhen keeping me top of the Fantacalcio League. I am also winter champion. Thank you. Good. But elsewhere in Serie A, then we're going to move on from Napoli, and we're going to go to which side of Milan should we go to first? Adam, I'm going to let you pick the red side or the blue side.
Let's start with the red side.
Red side. Milan start and end strong. They score in the first 2 minutes. They kind of score in the last minute. Yeah. And they squeeze past in a very improving Fiorentina. Yeah. Adam, what did you think of Milan's performance here? I wasn't that convinced by the performance, I'll be honest.
Again, it's one of those that's kind of like if you saw it on a flow chart, it go up and down, really. They took a fantastic lead. Leao, quickly taking his goal, incredible. But like you say, there was kind of periods of that play against Fiorentina where Fiorentina seemed to edge it. Biraghi seemed to be unlucky at times. To be fair, a host of Fiorentina chances during the whole set of the match. Barak, in particular, had a fantastic game. I know that's a player that you've been raving for Barak. A while since Verona days. But yeah, it seems unfortunate that Fiorentina kind of gave it away in the last minute of injury time. I mean, it's not really a foul on the keeper. The keeper just ran out of his goal trying to claim a ball and he didn't get anywhere near it. So you couldn't really say that there was a foul on him. But yeah, keeps Milan's momentum, despite the fact that they haven't got really a full team to pick from. So yes, you could say it's disappointing from a AC Milan performance point of view, but certainly they're keeping on this momentum of getting results and ultimately keeping themselves in that title race as well, which is the most important thing, right?
Well, listen, I was just about to ask Andy, do you think Milan are still in it? They've now won 3 of their last 5, only losing 1. They seem to just be getting over the line. Do you think are they still the biggest challengers to Napoli?
No, I think with the form that Juve are in, I think you would actually have to put them down as I no way thought we'd be saying this a few weeks back. You'd have to put Juve down, both in terms of the recent results and performances. I think with AC Milan recently, they haven't convinced. However, I think they are a team that could benefit from a World Cup break to get a few players back potentially, and then start afresh. In the new year. So, yeah, I think they've done what a lot of teams have done. They've just grinded through it without ever really being convincing. I think it's been probably a good few weeks since we saw like a really convincing Milan performance where they played well from start to finish. I think you'd have to go back to earlier in the year, really, where they beat Juventus probably back in October. It was probably their last real decent performance. But, at the end of the day, it's all about the result. I think they would have taken being where they are in the table, being 7 points behind Napoli at this stage of the season. I'm just not necessarily sure that they've got the squad depth at the moment to compete. I think
you're right. But the weirdest scenes we saw at San Siro, it was a really bizarre thing, was the Curva bidding an emotional farewell to Ivan Gazidis, man who at Arsenal was chased out of the club and basically with pitchforks and fire. And he has decided I think he's leaving the job. He's kind of going to pastures new. And the Milan fans are genuinely upset to see him leave. It's kind of a little bit crazy. I know under him, they have had a hell of an improvement. He's kind of worked very closely with Maldini to get this incredible. When you think about where they picked Milan up from and where they are now, the transformation is insane. And they've done it without really bursting the bank. They've done it. I think they're still in the green. So you have to say, fair play, even. It didn't work out at Arsenal, but some fans are sad to see you leave. But as an Arsenal fan, I was a bit like, I had to say, I did a double take, definitely. Like, wait, is that for him? Is that for him? But yeah, farewell, even. Good luck in where you end up next. For Fiorentina, it's a real shame, right? I think they've been massively improving, a performance where they definitely deserve more. But I think what we've seen from them throughout the season is that they've just, guess what? Vlahovic is really hard to replace. Jovic is just not the same player. He's not got the same hit rate, and they're not putting the goals away like they did last season. They will still be fine. I just feel like they probably deserved a bit more from this game. I think it deserved.
Feels like a bit of a recurring theme this season, isn't it? They've played well enough in patches to feel like they deserve to be a bit higher than 10th, but I
also think the Conference League kind of shafted their squad a little bit. It really did. They've got quite a.
They're not used to it, are they? They're not used to that kind of level back-to-back league and then Europa. So yeah, it is what it is. Right?
Have they got that to look forward to? Did they made it through there?
Yes,
Yes, didn't they? So they've got that in the summer. But when they come back, they have got Monza at home, Sassuolo at home, Sampdoria in the Coppa Italia.
That's kind of gentle-ish start.
That's quite a gentle-ish start. I think Roma Fiorentina could be a big one. Obviously, goes January, so I think they've got a easier than expected. Like a nice, ease them in gently kind of start.
You've just jinxed them, though. You've said
that's it.
Easy.
Yeah,
so they're going to lose to Monza now, like 3-0. Monza are on fire as well, by the way.
Sassuolo will reach their potential and batter them 4-0, and Sampdoria will come back from the dead. They'll win the Coppa Italia and get relegated. There you go. That's my hot take.
Decided. Sampdoria have got a chance after all. Who'd have thought it? Elsewhere, we do need to go to the other side of Milan, and we need to talk about Inter. They've now scored 9 goals in 2 games. I do not know what is going on with Inter.
Mind blown.
This was an incredible performance as well. I think the first half, they were terrible. I think the only good thing about the first half for Inter was that it finished and they were level. Like, it was awful. But a great finish from Dzeko, kind of Zlatan-esque little
it was
back heel kick,
wasn't it? Yeah,
which was beautiful to see. And then the second half, I think Atalanta were nowhere near it. Inter absolutely dominated it, and a great performance from Simone Inzaghi's men. Inter, I just feel like it's going to be a schizophrenic season for them, isn't it? It's going to be up and down. It's going to be up and down. What did you make of the performance, Adam? And then Andy, I'll get your thoughts on Atalanta.
I think the main thing is Inter building on the current kind of few results that they've been getting together. So obviously Sampdoria was a good starting point. Then they had that defeat against Juventus, but then they picked themselves up again. So, when you see that 7-1 result against Bologna, you're kind of like, yes, this is where it gets even worse, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, look, they're doing the things that Inzaghi needs right now, which is points on the board. Big result against Atalanta because obviously Inzaghi was under pressure by the fact that he hasn't been winning these kind of games. I mean, I'm probably at the right time to have this break as well, because I think that helps them regroup a bit more, get the players that they need back into the fold as well. But yeah, I think there's lots of learnings from this first part of the season, which is basically they aren't as solid as they anticipate to be. For Atalanta, though, yeah, again, we kind of speculated it on last week's pod. It doesn't look too pretty at the moment, and probably the break again really benefits them right now as well. To be fair, I think they desperately need to regroup. But that said, you've got a few of their players that are going to be at Qatar as well. So I don't know how much Gasperini will be able to work with the players that he's got at his disposal. But again, yeah, a lot's been said about this Atalanta squad. They're doing really well, considering, I think, expectations as well, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. We expected them to be Europa League, maybe pushing for Champions League, if you know what I mean. I think that result does put Inter 3 points ahead of them, so it was huge. But now Atalanta have lost 4 of their last 5. I saw very little bite in that team, very little attacking intent. The goal came from a penalty, a very good penalty, a fantastic penalty from Lookman, going from shite Panenkas to that. Fair play. He's learned his lesson. That was a great penalty, but I didn't see anything from that Atalanta team that really made me worry for Inter. What do we think about Atalanta, Andy? Is this break perfect for Gasperini? Does it give him a chance to steady the ship?
They need a break because they're pretty much been free fall for the past few weeks. They keep making sloppy mistakes. In every single game, they've always been sort of in the game, but they keep making a sloppy mistake. In this case, it's the own goal, and they just haven't quite got the energy or quality to recover from it at the moment. I feel that they're lacking a little bit of an X factor. But they've had. I think if you did ask them, would they have taken, especially after last season, taken 6th place going into the Qatar World Cup? I think they would have absolutely taken it. I think they'll just be disappointed by the current circumstance when they started so well. They've lost 4 games out of 5, and they've really lost their momentum. I mean, they have got, generally speaking, a small squad, which when you get a few injuries, you're going to feel the impact of that. And, hopefully they'll have a chance to recover a little bit. Because I think they are better than they've shown. I think, they're certainly better. They're as good as Lazio. And I think when it comes to the latter end of the season, I still think they'll be trying to be pushing the top 4 because at the end of the day, they're only 3 points off it at the moment. Yeah. Even though they've had a really rough patch of form.
They just need that one win. I think all the games they've lost by 1 goal, except for the Lazio game, they lost 2-0. I think everyone has been by 1 goal. And like you said, it's that lapse in concentration, I think, or that little. They lost. Their unbeaten run ended, and then it's just spiraled. And I think they just need to take a breath, resettle, and see where they're at.
Yeah, I think we need more consistent goals as well. Because I think that's the problem that they've got. Obviously, Lookman's done really well, but he's not a striker, and
he's not a 20-goal a season.
He's not a 20-goal a season striker. The bloke who should be a 20-goal a season striker, Duvan Zapata, is really bad. Not
inconsistent to say the least.
Yeah, but he has been, he has been more consistent in the past. You look at his overall records, but for the past,
one thing to say though on Zapata, he's just come back from injury, so it's going to take time, right? So Muriel hasn't been firing either, so I think they are.
Muriel never does, though, does he?
I feel like between the two of them, they usually one of them scores. Usually one of them scores.
Yeah, if you merge the two of them together, you would have a 20 to 30 goal a season striker. But unfortunately, the technology's not there to do that.
Yeah,
so you just not quite yet. Yeah, you just have to hope one of them does that. Because again, when with Luis Muriel, he's only got 1 in 9 himself, and when he's at his best, he's got electrifying pace. He
set pieces as well.
When he's confident, he is a really good player, but. I think they need to find a consistent source of goals, whether that's coaching Zapata and Muriel into a better form, or maybe looking into the transfer market. I think that's where Atalanta can make that game potentially.
Well, fingers crossed for them as the season kicks off in the second half. We do need to very quickly talk about the bottom of the table as well, because Christ alive, the gap is widening, and it looks like those 3 teams are going to be the 3 teams. So Verona bottom on 5, Sampdoria 19th on 6 points. Cremonese 18th on 7 points. Spezia 17th on 13 points. There's already a 6-point gap. And I don't think it's harsh to say none of those teams in the bottom three look anywhere close to winning a game at the moment. Verona did have a slight moment of hope against Spezia as they went 1-0 up. A beautiful chip from Verdi. Really nice goal. But Nzola put pay to that within 13 minutes and made it 2-1 to Spezia. Huge, huge win there. Sampdoria getting beaten by Lecce at home 2-0. We said it, right? We said that's not even going to be close. Lecce are going to walk through that one. They did. And Cremonese got beaten 2-0 by Empoli. Goals from Cambiaghi and Parisi. Again, just these teams. Very quickly, Adam, do you think those are the teams to be relegated?
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I was going to say with Lecce, they've got a player like Colombo who, we've been saying at the beginning of the season looks like a prospect. He scored a fantastic goal and set up a really good game for Banda. That's it, Banda. Yep. Very good assist there. If you haven't seen it, it was really classic because it was kind of back-heeled it in a position you don't expect him to do that. Spezia, totally expect them to be safe this season. Unfortunately, that injury to Dragowski, I don't know if you guys saw it. I retweeted it.
That's rough.
It was absolutely horrific. And that really could have, made Spezia players maybe go the other way and lose the match. But thankfully, they gave their all for Dragowski and dedicated that win to him. As for the likes of Cremonese, I just think they're just lacking that firepower. That's what it is at the end of the day. Sampdoria are pretty much certs, and Verona have been cost-cutting from the beginning of the season, so can't see them.
It's a shame. It's a shame because Verona was so good last year. So good last year, and it's just all fallen apart. Those three teams just look completely bereft. And Sampdoria, I just want to see how bad it can get because I can see no signs of anything encouraging there at the moment. I'd almost rather be a Verona fan at this point.
I've just been trying to Google what team got the lowest point totals
in Italy. It is. Yeah,
and I think we're in a chance here with one of these three teams. So the two most recent examples was Pescara in I think 2017, 2018, getting only like I think 16 points,
12.
something like that. Yeah. And then you had Chievo after being deducted points.
Yes,
finished a couple of years
ago.
They
deducted 10, 12 points or something.
It's only about 3 points actually. I think I read.
Okay.
Wasn't that many, but
that was a terrible Chievo team, though.
But this, this one they can't. They've not been deducted. None of these teams have been deducted any points. I mean, unless you get deducted points of being shite.
They are just terrible. I was just looking at Verona. They've lost the last 10 games in a row, and they've scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in that time. And I don't have the time to count how many they've conceded, but it has not been pretty. Let's just say lots. Verona look bang in trouble. Sorry, Verona. Last season you were so good. Life isn't fair, but we need to, before we move on to the Premier League, we need to talk about. We're going to go for our team of the season so far. I think there's only really one answer, but Andy, I'm going to go for you. Serie A team of the season so far.
Napoli, of course.
Yeah, that was
there needs to be justification for that. I think we
speaks for itself, right? Player of the year so far, just shout out, guys, when you think of it.
Faradona.
Yeah.
Very good shout. Very good shout. Most disappointing team of the year so far.
Ooh.
There's a few candidates. I'm going to throw some at you. I'm going to say, Sampdoria, Verona, Sassuolo looking pretty terrible. What do we think?
I think Roma have been pretty disappointed, to be honest.
The drop-off's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a big old drop-off. Verona, sorry, guys. And the team who will improve the most in the second half of the season?
I'm going to put it out there, Lecce or Monza. Because I think there's high hopes for Monza. Monza's form of late has been quite good.
Been unreal, eh?
And with the players that they've got at their disposal, I think they could do even better second half of the season. Lecce, if they can just add a few more players, I think they could have a solid base to climb up that table.
Nice. Andy, what do you think? Team that's going to have the most improved second half?
Oh,
I know who I'm
think-
going to go for, but I want to see who you're going to say.
I think Sassuolo have got a lot more to show than they have at the moment.
I hope so.
I think they're better than the 15th that they're in at the moment as a team.
Yeah.
So I could see them. I'd like to see them put together like a run of forward, gets you into the top half. Otherwise, I'd have picked weirdly enough Inter. I know it sounds strange because they're already in the top 5, but I still think they've got another gear to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to go in the hope that we'll jinx it. I'm going to say Juventus. I think, but I genuinely think I was thinking about it today, and I was like, they're going to have such a great end to the season, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's going to be really depressing. I think they're going to have a really, really great end, second part of the season. So, on that depressing note, or inspiring if you're a Juve fan, we're going to move on to the Premier League. And it's time to talk Premier League. And you can hear the excitement in my voice, listeners. But we're not going to start with Arsenal. We're going to start. There's only one place to go. And it's, of course, the Busy Bees batter City as Ivan Toney sends a message to Gareth Southgate with an incredible centre-forwards performance. Genuinely did everything. His heat map and his touch map were mental. He was everywhere on the pitch. His hold-up play was fantastic. His finishing was incredible. He arguably could have and should have had a hat-trick. But Andy, I'm going to start with you. I think you might have enjoyed seeing this happen. What did you make of Brentford's performance and City's?
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. I think Brentford set themselves up really, really well. I think with Ivan Toney, they have got a striker who's got a very, very good all-round game. And I think when you play against City, you need your striker to do a bit of everything. You need him to drop deep, lay it off, do the shit housing of the long balls, and then do his day job, if you like, just getting into the box and scoring some goals. I think having him on forward has made a massive difference to them. And like I said, it's not, for Brentford, it's not a fluke they've been able to pull this kind of result out. They've done it against Chelsea last season. They did it against Manchester United earlier this season. They play with two up front. The wing backs push high and aggressively. And I've said before that Manchester City defence, with some of the key figures missing, is not that great. Laporte has had his injury problems. Good defender, but he's had his injury problems. Adjani didn't really look that great for Dortmund, to be honest. And
it's a bit of a weird one.
They were hopeless last season. You've got John Stones playing at right back. For a team of Manchester City's resources, they seem to have really left themselves short in a few areas. I think maybe that's complacency or something, or whether they're actually trying to be self-sustainable. I don't know. But they haven't really, apart from Riyad Mahrez, they're lacking a little bit of depth on the wings. They haven't for City of a team of their resources, for not really to have much in the way of backup fullbacks, given how vital they are to the way City play, seems a bit of an overshot. But I think one thing that was quite funny was just Kevin De Bruyne, especially, just diving constantly or going down easily.
It feels like a new focus they're taking City. It does. I noticed throughout the game that they were hitting the deck instantly, and I was like, this feels like a kind of a decision, right? It feels like this is a tactical decision. I think every team dives, every team has players who dive, everyone accuses everybody of it. But I thought in this game in particular, City were absolutely terrible with it. And De Bruyne having a really off day in general, apart from clearing one off the line at the end. I didn't really notice him doing much in the game. It's not often you say that.
No, I think so. Haaland as well. He probably wasn't as effective as we're used to. But I think my theory on it is that everyone's referees have cottoned on to the tactical fouls, where they clean people out, especially Fernandinho, who hits foul people about 7 or 8 times and not get
before he gets a stern word.
So maybe that's their new approach. And weirdly, that I think they're also still adapting a little bit to having Haaland in the side as well. Maybe that maybe that side of things has been a little bit iffy for them. But again, I think they've got a lot of players perhaps with half an eye on the World Cup. If you look at most of that squad,
well, they're all going, aren't they?
half
Every
that,
single one of them's going.
half of that, pretty much all of that 11 that they've got that they played at the weekend are all going to the World Cup, and maybe with Brentford where there's not as many of them, especially with Ivan Toney. I mean, I know that argument's going to rage on for a while. I don't.
The second England might get a rough result, maybe get a draw against Iran. The paper's going to be all over that.
The thing is, though, as good as Ivan Toney is, and he's been brilliant this season, I don't think it was that 100% outrageous he was left out, because
I don't
he's quite the reason. You know, he's quite similar to Harry Kane in terms of how he plays, but he's not as good as Harry Kane, and he's not going to start ahead of him. So I think that's why he's gone with Wilson, because you need something different than what you've already got to make a difference.
I think in general it makes sense, and I wasn't upset that Tony was left out. I was never upset that he was left out. Obviously he was, but I was never upset that he was left out.
I think his time will come, though. I think when, assuming Southgate does one at the end of a tournament where we crash out in the quarterfinals, embarrassingly, I think people like Tony will get some chances.
Yeah. I hope so, because he's earned it. He's definitely earned it. But Adam, we need to talk about Brentford, just how tactically they were unbelievable, and they really did kind of really pull City apart. I found the midfield runners from deep were incredible. Like Thomas Frank, he should be in a conversation a bit more about like elite coaches, right?
Yeah, definitely. He must have like a file of different scenarios and what to do, but he's articulate in terms of the detail. He showed it a few years ago when they were in the Championship. Luckily enough, I was able to see it against Wickham, where they beat us 7-2 in one particular match. And he just seems to get the most out of these players, no matter what kind of style that they're facing against. They really do seem to deconstruct their style and play their own way. Like we've kind of said, they do like to use the wing backs, Rico Henry on one side. And it's interesting, you've got the likes of, obviously, Josh Da Silva that set up Ivan Toney for the winner. That kind of, he's very clever in terms of when he's going to put these players and what duties they're going to carry out as well. One other player to highlight as well, although he didn't have as much of an impact in this particular match, but he did kind of start that run, was Wissa. Wissa on the other side came on, did like drag the defense, and that's the kind of thing that he does. He kind of tries to tire out the opposition very early, try and meticulously try and absorb the pressure, and then use those players to bomb forwards, do the counter-attacking. And as we've highlighted, Ivan Toney does a really good job of holding up the ball, contributing, making sure that the play continues as well, because that's the key thing. It's one thing to hold up the ball. It's another to actually try and set up or try and keep the momentum in terms of passing going. And just a word on the defence with Raya in goal, who I didn't think would make the jump up to the Premier League, because there's been a few occasions in the Championship where he was caught napping, I felt. But yeah, real big praise for him and Pinnock as well. I mean, he's another player that's come from the lower leagues, doing really well. So fair play to him. Fantastic performance. And yeah, Thomas Frank should be in the conversation of bigger jobs. I think we kind of laughed or scoffed at the opportunity at Villa, potentially maybe too soon or maybe too similar kind of sides.
I feel like it's a sideways step at this point. I think he needs to be waiting for a bigger job. Sorry, Villa fans, but you are kind of the level of Brentford, and maybe should be aiming to get back to where Brentford are. But incredibly impressed. Obviously, I think I tweeted the false hope of Man City being a goal behind. I was like, I just know that this is going to, I know the way this is going to go. I'm not going to let myself get excited.
When it flashed up 2-1, I thought, oh, here we go. They scored a last-minute winner. And, wait, for who? No, it's Brentford.
And they should have had three. They could have had three. They really just kept catching them on the break. And I feel like there are weaknesses in this City team. As you said, Andy, the defense isn't where it should be. There are weaknesses in this team, and it's giving me false hope, and I don't like it. But before we get on to Arsenal, we're going to talk about, I think, the game of the weekend. And I actually sat and watched this, and it was going well for a while, but I'm going to have to start giving them their flowers. Spurs. No, I don't get it. They are so shit, and they win every game. I don't understand. But we have to talk about is this the fruit of Antonio Conte's fitness work? Is this what he works his players into the ground for? Because what they do is they get late goals every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And this cannot be a coincidence. Now, Leeds basically bent over for the last 2 goals and let them have it. But, like, you have to say Spurs now are looking like a very hard team to beat, and they don't know when they're beaten. I can't get my head around it because they look shit. Like, Adam, what do you think? It's like this paradox.
I think we kind of said this about Conte with other sides, to be fair. What he does, though, really well is get the best out of the players that is at his disposal. So what I would say, definitely reflects on the fact that Spurs, quality-wise, aren't as good as the Inter or the Chelsea sides. But one of the things he does do is he seems to get players like Ben Davies, Eric Dyer to play at their optimal. So basically by giving that all, but he seems to play a certain style where it is kind of absorbing the play. But then when they need to, like you say, and refer to the fitness regime as well, that's kind of critical to the style. You need to be high intensity, but all of the time, and be able to create those moments. And in the likes of Bentancur and Kulusevski, they seem to be the linchpins at the moment for Spurs, because other than that, I said it on the previous pod, I think they're struggling. And if it wasn't for those signings, who ironically came from Juventus, then what else could happen with this Spurs squad? I think there's definitely reinforcements to be made in the January window. It's just a question of who could they move out. That's the key question.
It's the question of Levy spending money as well is the bigger question. But I think, I like, in all seriousness, I think they are going to back Conte. I think they can see that there's something happening there. Then there is like signs of, yes, if we do invest, he can improve us. Bentancur has been a very, very good signing. Juve fans were kicking him out the door, and I don't think anybody saw him being this good. Kulusevski, we're seeing Kulusevski from Parma. This isn't Kulusevski that was at Juventus when his confidence was destroyed. We're seeing the exciting Dejan Kulusevski again, who is one of the most terrifying attackers that you'd have to go up against. I do have to say, though, Emerson Royale cannot be a professional footballer because I do not know what he does. Some of the shit he does is so hilarious. Some of the shots where he just balloons into the stand. I'm sure you've seen the clip of the midfield pass where there's no one there. And he just goes straight to the Leeds player. But giving Spurs their flowers, incredible win. But Andy, Leeds, could you handle being a Leeds fan? I feel like I would have had a coronary about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, mate, they must have had like a few replacement hearts by this point.
Like the mortality rate in Leeds at the moment must be pretty high.
It must be high. I mean, to be fair, it's not short of entertainment at all, is it?
Yeah.
I think they are going to have to, although it's very serious, that they're going to have to find a way to toughen up at the back, because conceding 3-4 games and conceding in the manner that they do for a lot of their goals, that is not sustainable to stay in the Premier League. So hopefully, with Jesse Marsh, I'm sure they'll find a way to. Usually, they'll get the backing to address that, because I think that's where their major weaknesses are at the back. I mean, with that Leeds Liverpool game aside, they're always quite vulnerable. I mean, they shipped in 3 against Fulham, 3 against Bournemouth.
They've conceded 11 goals in 5 games.
There you go. Yeah,
that is quite impressive, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, they've picked up a couple of wins. They want 15 points after 14 games. If you map that out across the whole season, they finish on roughly 40 points, which would probably be enough. But I think you can't, you'd expect that Nottingham Forest will be a bit more settled by this point. Southampton or Wolves are shite. But no, I think
all the teams in trouble.
And also, I think as well, from an England point of view, Harry Kane being in form, 12 goals in 15 games. I think that's largely gone under the radar because of obviously Haaland's exploits, but he has quietly been really, really good. And he's somebody who doesn't normally start the season particularly well. He's somebody who flourishes towards the end of it. So the fact he's already in double figures in November, I think bodes well. I think as long as
it's kind of mad that Haaland is. Sorry, I think Haaland's completely skewed the. You know how like the Messi Ronaldo numbers now make Raul look terrible. I feel like Haaland is kind of doing the same. It is like skewing the lens a little bit. But yeah, Harry Kane, you're right. Nobody's talking about it. He's had an incredible season again. It's become so normal now that he scores every game. But because I'm very conscious that we're running out of time, I want to very quickly also move on to Newcastle. Joe Willock with a fantastic finish as they put a lost, I'm going to say lost being kind, Chelsea team to the sword. Newcastle really looking like, I do not want to play away there this season. That is going to be a rough place to go for many teams. What did you think of Newcastle's performance, Adam?
I think Chelsea were there to be taken. Unfortunately, it was one of those performances where you kind of felt from about 5 to 10 minutes in that it wasn't going to be Chelsea's game because there was, I think it was around when Loftus-Cheek got injured and he had to be bought off eventually. You kind of felt like that was the moment where Newcastle were pushing or putting themselves about, basically. And that in that kind of environment where you've got that kind of set of fans behind them, then that is like a kind of a fortress. When it's really rocking and swaying, you don't want to be facing that. So from that point of view, they win on that side, but also just the fact that they seem to just do at ease. For that goal in particular, it was a really good move, in fairness. Almiron knocking it on, should I say, sorry, for Willock. And he took it superbly well. But even Chris Woods, who was by himself, didn't do as much, but he did all the rough stuff. He just made it more of a hassle for the Chelsea defenders. And I think at moments, Chelsea defenders didn't know what to do. Chalobah looks terrible.
He looks like all his confidence is gone. I thought he was a really exciting, promising defender, and he still is. But I feel like that defensive unit at the moment at Chelsea just needs completely revamping. The fact
it's not working, is it?
No, and the fact that Azpilicueta is still there kind of blows my mind a little bit. Like Thiago Silva at 37, still a great defender, but you've got to be moving on, right? It just feels like that whole defensive unit is a bit lost. And the problem is, Andy, do you think Potter's going to get the time? I don't think he's going to get the time. Well, he's already under pressure.
He's under pressure, I think, because people expect Chelsea to act in those kind of situations, but this is a new regime, so we don't 100% know what's going to happen. I think with Todd Bowley, I don't think he'd be so willing to cut his own man, his own appointment out so soon. And with Graham Potter teams, they need time. Yeah. Brighton, I know we talk about how well they did last season, but they still, over the time he was there, they still went 8, 9, 10 games of really, really ropey performances before it really started to click into gear. And I think, for a Chelsea squad that spent so much money during the summer, you look at their first 11, it's actually lacking quite a bit of quality, to be honest with you. Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, and Armando Broja, that's not a top 4 quality front line by any stretch of the imagination. They're, Trevor Chalobah, an aging Azpilicueta, is not a top 4 quality defense. So I think they are, like I said, they are lacking a little bit at the moment. I think they made some quite poor decisions. I feel like they needed to invest more in the summer on maybe some younger centre-backs. They could have done without maybe letting both Christensen and Rudiger go. Signing Aubameyang on a short-term deal was one of those. I know you're laughing, but it's one of those.
I'm loving it.
Seems like a good idea at the time. But he should be Aubameyang. If Aubameyang was signed as a backup to an established number 9 who scored 10, 50 goals a season, you just need someone to come off the bench for 15 minutes. That signing makes a lot of sense. When you've got Aubameyang as a senior striker, whose best days are behind him, Armando Broja, who had he got, I think, seven goals in 30 odd games for Southampton last season. That's an okay goal return, but that's not good enough for Chelsea. But on the bright side, I think there'll be a few of them that'll be staying behind during the World Cup. I think Potter will have time to map out what he wants of his team going into January. But it'd be interesting to see how tolerable the ownership will be to
I think that's
the top four.
That's the test, really, isn't it? Seeing
they've
how
hired
patient
they've
they are.
hired they've hired a project manager, and
yeah.
you'd like to think clubs do the due diligence on managers. Well, they should do, but they don't. If they've done any sort of
in an ideal world,
if they've done any sort of due diligence, I know what they get with Graham Potter.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Graham Potter's team. These are not his players. He's not had a chance to bring in everyone like that. I can guarantee if he had the chance, he would bring in someone like Trossard or even Pascal Grob, who's worked within his system and understands it. And I think that's what he needs, because Ten Hag was able to do that with United. He brought in Martinez, he brought in Anthony, he's brought in people who understand that kind of football.
Fingers crossed he gets the chance. But I just do have to laugh at Chelsea being down in 8th. So
yes, that's hilarious.
That is good to see. And finally, because again we are running out of time, I just need to say it, like, we're top before going into the World Cup. We're top.
And we're out of time. See you later, guys.
I never, ever thought I'd be saying it. I have absolutely loved every second of this season. The Wolves game, we were very, very lucky, especially first half. Wolves should have had a penalty, and Saliba should have been sent off. All I'll say to that is that is for David Luiz 2 years ago, so hold that, as the kids say. I'm not going to feel guilty about that. I thought second half, we just got the job done. We were much better second half. Martin Ødegaard, now top scorer in the Premier League for Arsenal, having an unbelievable season. And our midfield now is the most productive in terms of goals and assists in the league. It feels like it's all going to be horrible when it ends. But this time, this was a big test. With City dropping points, we could have just... Wolves, new manager, bounce, etc., etc. It all could have gone very wrong, but we handled it. We played really well, and I'm just loving everything at the minute. Arteta, his answers in the press conferences were brilliant. They were like, if you do this, you can win the league. He said, no, if we do all that, we can beat West Ham. And that is just that is all they're thinking about. The next game. And we just need to keep doing that, boys. Just don't think beyond your noses. Just the next game, and we will keep going. Unbelievable. I'm going to let someone else talk about Arsenal if you want to. I'm going to go to Adam because I don't feel like Andy wants to talk about Arsenal.
All I would say is this is a sign of champions. This is the kind of thing that happens, which is basically you win games when you're least expected to win them, or you happen to have a really bad game. And the fact that you've got the quality to kind of turn that into a positive, which is what Ødegaard did in this particular match, just goes to show you what you can do. But word on Wolves, I think they were obviously there to try and impress Lopetegui. There's a lot of work to do. I don't think they're out of the woods, to say the least. I think even if you bring players in January, that's not enough necessarily to turn it around. But I think there are 3 other worse sides than them, including Everton. So
yeah. Well, what stood out to me was their hope was just give the ball Adama Traore and hope he does something.
Exactly.
They've got no recognised striker really. Guedes looked dangerous at times when we let him, but I think their tactic was very clear for everyone to see. It was a flat back 10 and hope to catch him on the break. I just feel like the Diego Costa thing, they hoped it would work as a short-term fix, but they have to go into the market for a striker. Yeah. They have to go maybe down to the Championship, or like just try and get a striker that's in form now that they can bring in and try and get into that league. I always think Brayton Diaz probably deserves a stab at the Premier League. I think Wolves should be bringing in that attacking player. Andy, I'm just going to ask you, how impressive have Arsenal been this year?
No, to be fair, I will give them a true. They've actually been incredibly good, and I think as much as I've ripped into them, I think more on the joking side of things. But yeah, on a serious level, I think you can see the work that Arteta's done. What you're seeing now has been in the making for 3-4 years. And there's been some major hiccups. I remember at the start of last season, I didn't think Arteta would be in the job, to be honest with you. I thought he was very, very lucky to keep his job after not being in the top 4 year on year. But obviously, those running the club have seen something that we don't necessarily see, on the training pitch. And in turn, he got rid of those bad eggs, and he's got a group of players that will will die for him, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think I think when your club's in a positive momentum, everything you touch turns to gold. Saliba, people were talking about him being farmed out on loan, and they criticised the treatment of him. Suddenly he's come back. He's looked very, very good. For what was Arsenal's sort of main weakness, has suddenly become one of their strengths is at the back, and the depth and the different options that they can have. You can have Ben White at the back, Tommy Arsu at the back. You've got Tierney Sinchenko on the left hand side. You've got Rob Holding who could provide passable support as a backup centre back, and suddenly they've got a bit more depth up there. And I think so. I think they deserve a lot of credit because that team has been through a lot to get to where they are at the moment. And although it would be quite funny to see them bottom it, at the end of the day, I'd rather see them win it than Manchester City, to be perfectly honest with you. So,
me too. And I also think one thing Sky Sports need to stop, because it's not fair on either team. Stop comparing this Arsenal run to Leicester. Nothing Arsenal ever do will be comparable to what Leicester did. Leicester was an absolute miracle on a shoestring. We have spent millions. We have spent a lot of money. It is just not fair on either team to compare this run to Leicester's run. Even if we win the league, what Leicester did will always be more impressive. It's a lazy narrative, and it kind of annoys me every time they bring it up, because I think the Leicester run deserves more credit than that. But we're not even there yet. We're not even halfway through in terms of games, and we've still got to play City twice. But we have played all of the top 6 teams. City have only played 1, I think, and they lost to Liverpool. So it's all to play for, as they say. But before we send our listeners off and our viewers off, we need to do our kind of mid-season awards. So I'm going to go for most impressive team so far this season. You all know what I'm going to say, so I'm going to go to you guys.
Go on, Andy. You go first.
So, right, cut out briefly. So, what was it again? I had a bit of
the most impressive team in the Premier League so far.
I think in terms of consistency performances, you'd probably have to say Arsenal.
Adam?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, full house.
Easy.
I mean, that's fair. Let's go for player of the season so far.
I've gone for Ivan Toney, just purely because
nice.
I feel like
I
I know we've spoken about him, but I feel like his levels from last season to this season have risen. It would have been easy to have given it to Haaland personally, but I've gone for someone different out of the box. So Ivan Toney.
Nice. Andy?
I'll go with Haaland. When I watch that performance against Manchester United, as painful as it was to watch, you look at it's one of those players you look at and go, yep, he's on a completely different level to anybody in the league, especially when he's in that vein of form. So I would go Haaland.
I'm going to go Arsenal. I'm going to say Granit Xhaka deserves a shout because he's been absolutely unbelievable this season. Scored plenty of goals, rounded off his game. I think Granit Xhaka definitely should be in the conversation at this point. Let's go for the most disappointing team so far this season. And start with you, Andy.
In terms of disappointing, I mean, there's been quite a few disappointments, hasn't there? Disappointing. I'd probably go with Southampton, to be honest. I thought they invested quite a little bit over the summer. They had a clear blueprint of investing in young, up-and-coming talent, mostly from Manchester City. It all seems to have gone a bit pear-shaped for them. And it feels like they're sleepwalking to a relegation battle, which I don't think they would do too well of if it did go down. So I think they've been the biggest disappointments for me, really, in terms of performances and where I'd expect them to be.
Nice. Adam, who are you going for?
I was going to say Aston Villa, but then I realised West Ham are in that relegation mix. So I probably will go with West Ham just purely because I think the probably expectation is that they should be higher in that league than their current position. And based on the fact that they did get some money to spend, like Skamaka, I'm going to go with West Ham.
Nice. I'm going to chuck in Wolves. I really didn't expect Wolves to be this bad. I thought Bruno Lage had a really good season last season. Wolves had a really good season last season. I'm not sure why it all imploded, but it did. Yeah. So, I'm going to say Wolves are the most disappointing. And then what was the was there one more? Oh, which team is going to have the most improved second half of the season? Let's start with you, Adam, this time.
I'm going to go with Aston Villa. I feel like
nice.
under Emery, they seem like they are going to turn the tide at the moment. The other team that I was going to tip is Crystal Palace, but I've kind of gone with Villa, I feel.
I think that's probably fair. Andy, what do you think?
Probably not original, but I'm actually going to say Manchester United. I think with a certain somebody most likely to be not in the building by the time football kicks back off at the end of December, and I think with the way that they're going, I think there's definitely the potential there to really see the best, because I don't think we see the best of Manchester United yet, and I think that is to come during this season.
Nice. Before you mention that certain man, because we do need to, I think the team I expect to have the most improved second half of the season, I'm going to go, it's just come to me and I'm going to go for it. Brighton. I'm going to say De Zerbi really gets his feet under the table and he really starts pushing them on. I'm going to say, yeah, let's go for Brighton. Cool. Right, we need to talk about it. The scorched earth policy taking towards his career is really quite impressive. Fuck me, I'm so sick of the bloke. Andy, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes. Adam, you have 2 minutes and I have 2 minutes.
Yes, we can work with that.
Andy, let's go.
Well, I think this was coming, to be fair, towards the end of the transfer window during the summer. He said that he would eventually reveal all about, the truth about what's going on at Old Trafford. I think there was maybe a brief thought it was bluffing because a couple of months have gone by and nothing's happened. And then suddenly, just as his team's about to jet off to a World Cup, he suddenly releases that. He's gone to the most odious of people in Piers Morgan, but those two do have a bit of a connection. They've already done an interview together previously.
Of course they fucking do.
Yeah, they're both raging narcissists who can't seem to accept the fact they're not at the top of their game anymore. So they've definitely got that. They've definitely got that in common. An unshakable belief, despite reality crushing in on them. And go to the interview itself. I think there's been an awful lot said about it. Now he's taken pot shots at the facilities of the club. The standards aren't the same as what he were at the left. The training ground and the stadium hasn't moved on since then. And to be fair, he's right in that, but that's not new. It's not news that's been in the public domain for months, years even. So again, that's nothing new. I don't really get what he's tried to get out of saying that. And at the end of the day, if the facilities were that bad, he could have just not signed. But hey, 400k in the bag a week probably helps.
I think that does probably help. I'm going to have to cut you off, Andy. I'm sorry. Adam, with your 2 minutes on Ronaldo?
I'll do less than that. I will just say motive is there, just to remind people that he is wanting to force a move out of that club. It's quite evident by the comments. I thought it was strange that he mentioned the likes of Ralph Rangnick and his role. But just on top of what Andy's kind of said, it is just kind of, just strange kind of thing to do at this moment in time, given that he's been given a second chance by Erik ten Hag. The fans certainly seem to be much more behind Erik ten Hag than they are against Ronaldo, which is just a shame because that's killing his legacy at the club, I feel. I don't know if Andy feels that way, but certainly from an outsider's point of view, it just feels like really sore and sour moments right now. So what's your thoughts?
I think it's a narcissist who is refusing to accept that time is a thing and that his powers are waning, and he could have gone out in a graceful way and just applied himself quietly and got on with the job and tried to bring through these young players who obviously idolize him. You can see that Garnacho just is obsessed with the idea of being in the same team as Ronaldo. He could have been a nice bloke and trained these players and left a legacy at a club and been like, selfless. But obviously that is not who he is. I think I've always preferred Messi, and this is why. He's ruining it all. And Andy, your last thoughts? How will he actually retire, or are we going to have to put up with him?
I think we're going to have to put up with him maybe for another 18 months. It's quite sad because somebody as a teenager I saw him coming through because I'm only 4 years younger than him. Somebody I had a lot of respect for coming through the ranks at Manchester United, and I've always admired him throughout his career. But I think he really has damaged his legacy. It's all deliberate to get himself out of the club. I think he knows there's no way back, especially when you slag the manager off, which I think was uncalled for. He slagged Ray Rooney off, which again, that was a broadside.
So classless, man.
I think that was just unnecessary. I suppose he slagged Ralph Rangnick off which I suppose is fair enough. To be honest, like maybe that's one bit where you go, actually, he's perfectly 100% valid on that one. No one knew why he was in the building, but yeah, we all know why he's done it. He has absolutely no intention of coming back to the club after the World Cup in Qatar. What his next move is, I don't know, but I think the latest. Where rather Manchester United released a statement to say that they're looking into it, I think they want to see the full interview before there. And I think there's rumours that they're consulting their legal teams. And I think what will happen in the interim in a few weeks, Jorge Mendes, his agent, will come together with United hierarchy. I think what they'll decide is to go their separate ways. Personally, that should have been done in the summer, but I think it's got to the point of no return now. And I think they just have to, even if we take a financial hit, they've been saying it for weeks, even if we take a financial hit, just get him out of the building, get that toxic energy out of the club, and then focus on Eric Ten Hag and maybe use those saved wages on somewhere else on the pitch.
Yeah. I think that's it. And the weekend where Garnacho, a really exciting young player, has scored a winning goal, Ronaldo's managed to take.
And that's what I really hope. And that's what I really hope the focus would be, because I was buzzing when Garnacho done that. Yeah. Lads come from the academy, third-year time winner. It's the stuff dreams are made of, and with Ronaldo at the building, hopefully in January going forwards, there could be a little bit more focus on bringing those young lads through. And I think it'll do the team massive favours.
Well, thanks for the memories, Ronaldo, but we will see you later, right? Listeners, viewers, we will see you later as well. Friday, we record on Thursday. Friday's show will officially be the first one of our World Cup specials, our World Cup month. We look forward to seeing you there. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube now or wherever you are, go to our YouTube and get our World Cup preview videos. We've got one for a lot of countries. They're all fantastic. Check them out and get yourself in the World Cup mood. While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe the videos. As always, follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Follow us on TikTok, follow us on LinkedIn. We're going to be trying to smash it this month. We will be everywhere. And we'll see you there, guys. Anything to say before we go?
Nah, pleasure as always.
Right. Pleasure. Thank you, guys. And we will see you on Friday. Have a good week.
See you later.